Space, a final frontier. These are the voyages of the starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission.
Trekkie Dave here. I'm here today with my wife Julie, who's directing me like always and helping me out.
Hi.
And welcome back to the channel. It's been well over a month since we've videoed any new episodes. We'll talk about that at the end of this episode. So this will be episode 23, and we'll talk about the reason for the delay at the end of this episode. I had a medical setback, but it's always been important to me that this channel emphasize the positive. So I'm more than willing to discuss what happened with me medically, but at the same time, I don't want it to be the focus of this episode. I want the focus of this episode to be positive, and I want the focus of this episode to be about the content itself. So like I said, Julie and I will discuss with you just to let you know what went on and why there's such long delay in doing a new episode. Okay?
Circus is back with a freak show. An episode suitable for kids featuring a poodle lady, the world's fattest man, and an aquatic bird boy.
Why are you now determined to prove that this penguin is not what he seems? Must you be the only lonely man-beast in town?
The circus vaulted its tents yesterday, perhaps forever, after numerous reports of missing children in several towns. Police have closed down the Red Triangle's fairgrounds. However, at least one freak show performer vanished before he could be questioned.
I suppose you feel better now, sir.
No. Actually, I feel worse.
So the topic today that I want to discuss is Batman. One of my interests that I don't think has been discussed a lot is Batman. Like, I've done a lot of videos on Star Trek and Star Wars and James Bond and Marvel, but not on Batman. I don't really think, other than a brief little bit at the end of one of my episodes, that I've really discussed Batman very much. And I want Batman to be a bigger part of this channel because Batman's always been such a huge part of my life. I've collected Batman comics for over 40 years, and I feel like he hasn't been really addressed very much on my channel. So this is episode 23, and specifically, the topic today is going to be the film Batman Returns. So Batman Returns was a film that came out in 1992. This film was directed by Tim Burton. This is a film that I've always loved from the first time that I saw it. And this is a film that I would describe as part of about a dozen films that I would call, for me, unlimited rewatchability. And I invented that term. But what it essentially means is that there are about a dozen films that I can watch over and over again, and I have my entire life, and I never get bored by them. There's that old cliche that people ask sometimes, if you were stranded on a desert island, what film would you take if you had to watch one film or a handful of films over and over again? Batman Returns is, for me, one of those films. Also on that list, I would put, and this probably won't surprise anybody, but Star Trek the Motion Picture, Star Trek II The Wrath of Khan, Batman 89, The Last Jedi, Empire Strikes Back, Moonraker, and also on that list would be Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. I have watched all of these films dozens of times, and when I rewatch them, I never fast forward over them. I never skip to the end. I watch them fully and I enjoy them. And it's funny because all of these films are very different from one another. None of them have like a similar component that would put it in this unlimited rewatchability. There's just something about them that, and I can't even describe it, but there's just something about them that I just connect with, and I'm able to watch over and over again. So anyways, Batman Returns is one of those films. What I've always found interesting, Tim Burton has always been one of my favorite directors. And I find him to be just such a unique visual director. He's one of a kind. His films are his own. And when you see a Tim Burton film, generally you can tell it's a Tim Burton film, but he also takes major risks, and he also, he's not exactly the same every time. I find him a very unique director. And one of the things that I love about Tim Burton, here, I'm just going to take my glasses off for a minute. Actually, I'm reading, I probably shouldn't. So I'll hold off on that for a minute. But one of the things that I've always loved about Tim Burton is you can tell that he loves movies. And what he does is he takes films, and I'm pretty sure they're probably from his childhood, but he takes genres and he then does homages to him in his own films. So what I mean by that is, say his film Mars Attacks. That to me is a homage of 1950s alien invasion films. His film Sleepy Hollow is a homage to 1950 Hammer films. And Batman Returns to me is a homage to the Universal horror films in its deeper themes and visual details. Everything from its gothic depiction of Gotham City and its surroundings to the costuming. The Penguin literally wears a 19th century outfit, including an Edwardian top hat. So my personal take on this movie, and I haven't seen this in any other reviews, but it is my belief in this film, even though it is never stated by Burton or by the film, it's my belief that the Penguin murdered his own parents after the beginning of this film. So there's a 33-year gap between where we're first introduced to the Penguin as a baby and to where we see the Penguin 33 years later. And it's my belief that during that 33 years, somewhere in there, the Penguin murdered his own parents as revenge for what they did to him. And I think there's a bunch of clues in this film that Burton inserts to imply, and like I said, even though it's never said in the film, but to imply that this has happened. First off, the Penguin's character arc in this film is a dark reflection of Bruce's arc. Bruce's parents were elite and rich, and they were tragically taken away from him by a random act of violence, leading him to a life of crime fighting in his attempt to prevent similar random acts of violence against other innocents like himself. The Penguin's character arc is a dark reflection of Bruce's arc, but on the opposite end of the spectrum. The Penguin has a similar elite social background to Bruce, and his only true goal in life as the film progresses is clearly revenge. Revenge against the 1%, against the Gotham elite society itself, including his parents, who turned their back on him and literally tried to murder him. They locked him in a stroller and dumped him in the sewage. They basically tried to murder him. They abandoned him. There's an interesting line in the film that the Max Schreck character says to Bruce. Max Schreck says directly to Bruce Wayne, quote, "If his parents hadn't been 86 by him, you two might have been bunkies in prep school." So both Penguin or Oswald, Penguin's real name is Oswald, both Bruce and Oswald come from similar elite backgrounds. And I think that's an important component of this film, because their character arcs, like I said, the Penguin's character arc is a dark reflection of Bruce's character arc, but on the opposite end of the spectrum, okay? But what I want to discuss now are some of the components of this film that I love and the reason why I love them, okay? So I'm going to have to read a little bit here because it's things that I've written down. And I'm just going to take my glasses off because I need to look closely at this, okay? First off, one of the main components of this film that I love so much are the performances themselves. First off, Danny DeVito. Once again, with my position that this is Tim Burton's homage to Universal monster films. One of the main components of all Universal monster films is the idea of a monster, whether it be Frankenstein or the Invisible Man. Like when you watch the Invisible Man movie from the 1930s, that character does a lot of really horrible things. And I would say same with Frankenstein. And all the characters in the original Universal monster films. But one of the main core themes of all of those films is sympathy for those monsters that you're able to find despite the horrible things that they do. And I would put the Penguin in with that main theme of the Universal films, because the Penguin does absolutely horrible things in this film, but he's still somehow, Burton is able to make him overall a sympathetic character, including at the end of the film, the Penguin's funeral, which is actually a very emotional and sympathetic moment in this movie. I think it's amazing directing and acting by both Tim Burton and Danny DeVito, okay? So that's Danny DeVito. Another amazing performance in this film is Michelle Pfeiffer. I know that later on the Nolan films had, oh gosh, what was her name? Sorry, I can't remember the actresses. Anne Hathaway. And she did a very grounded, realistic version of the Catwoman character that is, in some ways, well, I think, is more accurate from a comic book standpoint, because in the comic, the Catwoman character is a thief, is a cat thief, and Nolan specifically had the character be that in his films, whereas Tim Burton took more of a risk and actually being a homage to Universal films, he made the Catwoman character and Michelle Pfeiffer supernatural. So Catwoman is essentially a supernatural type character that is created when her boss, a character in the film named Max Schreck, who's played by, sorry, what's his name? Walkman. I'm sorry.
I can't remember his name. Walker, something Walker.
Yeah.
Christopher Walker?
Yeah, Christopher Walken.
Or Walken. Right?
Pushes her out of a window. And there's a really visually stunning scene of the camera following her down as she's hitting a bunch of arches or whatever until she hits the ground. And then once she's in the alleyway, she's basically surrounded by cats. And there's this supernatural element where it seems like she essentially comes back to life. I love that scene. I think it's both visually stunning and very risky. It's a very interesting scene. And Michelle Pfeiffer's performance across the board in this film is groundbreaking to me. To me, she is the quintessential Catwoman. She's amazing in this film, and I love every scene that she is in. I think she's amazing. Okay? Also, again, just talking about Christopher Walken. Christopher Walken plays a character in the movie that Tim Burton actually created for this movie only. This character is not in the comics. It was created for Batman Returns. And the character is named Max Schreck. Okay? What I've always found interesting about Max Schreck is there's an interesting sort of Donald Trump 1980s New York City comparison, where you have sort of a businessman slash con man who sort of is loved by the city because the people in the city don't entirely understand what his true motivations are. So he's actually a villain, but he's not perceived as a villain. And I've always found him to be an interesting character in this film, because he's sort of a background character, a puppeteer who's sort of manipulating everything, including the Oswald the Penguin and Catwoman and Bruce and everything. And I've just found him to always be a very interesting character, okay? This film, from a casting standpoint to me, is perfect. Michael Keaton is my favorite Batman. And I think he does an amazing job, just like he did in Batman '89, of realizing this character. Everything from the intimidation you feel. Like, this is a very intimidating Batman. And everything, like his voice, his bat voice. Like, it's very subtle and it just sounds natural. One of the issues I had with the Nolan films and that came out later was Batman's voice seemed forced. It didn't seem natural, whereas Michael Keaton is always natural in the role. It never feels forced to me in any way. And I love that about Michael Keaton's portrayal. It's iconic, okay? Another thing that I've always loved about this film is, and which I loved about the Batman '89 as well, but where I think that this film goes beyond that, is I love the gothic Gotham that's portrayed in this film. But part of part of this film that I think makes it even more unique or special is setting the film at Christmas time. This film is a very unique, has a very unique setting. And yes, Christmas time and the snow and just everything about it makes it very unique. Another thing about this film that I've always loved so much, or seen in this film that I've always loved so much, is the scene of Batman being signaled by the bat signal. It's a visually stunning scene, and Bruce is in his den, in his mansion. And what I've always liked about that scene is he's basically sitting there, and he appears to be waiting. I'm assuming he's waiting for the signal to go off. Established very strongly in Batman '89 is a scene between Bruce and Vicky, where Vicky asks Bruce, why does he have to confront the Joker? And Bruce makes a comment to Vicky that this is his job and he's the only one that can respond. And that scene where Bruce is waiting in the mansion it feels very, very much to me like a continuation of that theme. The idea that this is Bruce's job, and Bruce is the only one that can do this. I liked that consistency between the two films. I think it ties the two films together. And I also like in Batman Returns that unlike a lot of sequels, they address, like Selina and Bruce discuss Bruce's past relationship with Vicky. I like that there's a natural continuation that connect the two films together. I find that to be kind of unique for a sequel, and I like that about this film. Okay. The subsequent fight in Gotham Plaza after Batman responds to the signal, to the bat signal, is also a high point for me. Another scene that I really like in this film is the scene of Catwoman blowing up Shrek's department store. The scene of her in the department store where she uses the whip to knock the hats off of all of the mannequins, that was actually done by Michelle Pfeiffer. She was trained to use the whip, kind of similar to how Harrison Ford was trained to use a whip for the Indiana Jones films. And I've always found that to be, that's the only two times that I can think of an actor being trained on something so specific, like a whip. And I've always found that scene to be very interesting. And I love that scene. I love the scene where she's cartwheeling out of the department store and she presents herself in front of Penguin and Batman, who are having a conversation, and she says meow, and then the department store blows up. I've always found that to be a very visually stunning and well executed scene. Okay. Another iconic moment in this film, or moments in this film, are the scenes of Batman and Catwoman fighting on top of the Gotham rooftops. This is the first time that I saw something like that in Batman depicted, and this is a visual element that would be later depicted many times in the Batman animated series that came out after Batman Returns, and that Batman Returns was based on. But I've always loved those scenes between the Batman and Catwoman character of them fighting on the Gotham rooftops. Another scene that I absolutely love in this film is the Batman and Catwoman mistletoe scene that happens at the Shrek costume ball. And during that scene, it's revealed in the scene to them, and they figure out each other's secret identity as Batman and Catwoman. This is a brilliantly written and acted scene. In my opinion, it's the best scene in the film, and it's very well executed. I love that scene. I love that dialogue that the two characters have on the rooftop prior to the costume ball, where they're talking about mistletoe, and then at the costume ball, they repeat each other's dialogue. And through that, basically Catwoman repeats what Bruce says on the rooftop, and Bruce repeats what Catwoman says on the rooftop. And through that dialogue, they reveal each other's secret identity. They realize who each other are. That is an amazing scene. And like I said, it's my favorite scene in the film, and I think it's extremely well executed. Also about that, which goes back to my theme about this being a homage to Universal monster films. Something I've always found about the Shrek costume ball scene is how visually similar it is to a costume ball scene in the Universal monster film Phantom of the Opera. Okay? This is not a coincidence to me. Burton clearly did this on purpose, visually connecting Batman Returns to the universal monster canon.
Solve anything speech because it will. Aren't you tired of this sanctimonious robber baron always coming out on top when he should be 6 feet under?
I'm sure you have a lot of problems with your boss, but I mean, who the hell do you think you are?
I don't know anymore, Bruce. A kiss under the mistletoe. You know, mistletoe can be deadly if you eat it.
A kiss can be even deadly. If you mean it.
Oh my God. Does this mean we have to start fighting?
Let's go outside.
So going back to my original theory that the Penguin murdered his own parents, there's a few other elements in the film that make me believe this. First off is the fact that both of his parents are dead after the 33-year mark. Something else that happens in the film is it's first presented to the audience and to Gotham that the Penguin needs to go through the city records in order to identify his human identity, to identify who his parents are. But this turns out to be revealed to us that it's a lie. It is made clear in the film that the Penguin already knows who is his human identity. It's revealed to us later that he's really using the city records to create a revenge list, gathering the names and information of all the firstborn sons of Gotham, of the Gotham elite, in order to carry out his true psychotic plan of murdering all of them. Bruce says to Alfred at one point in the film, at the beginning, after Penguin has been going through these records, that Bruce believes the Penguin knows already who his parents are. So that, of course, is another hint to us that, in my opinion, that he murdered his own parents, because he doesn't need that information to identify his human identity or to identify his parents. He already knows who they are, so he's lying. He's really using that information as part of his revenge. And I believe part of his revenge in this film isn't just murdering the firstborn sons of Gotham, but obviously he's murdering his parents who tried to murder him. Okay? So without saying it, I believe that Oswald murdered his own parents. The film implies this in every way I think it possibly can without outright saying it. Okay? And to me, that theme of taking revenge on them is consistent with the deeper theme and the character arc of this villain. And goes back to the dark reflection of Bruce's crusade to save the innocent following the random tragic death of his own parents. Also, and this one is key to me, and something that I actually just noticed recently when I rewatched this film about a week ago. Burton inserts a small, subtle visual clue for the audience. The flowers that Oswald places on his parents' grave are dead. In Batman 89, Bruce goes to Crime Alley where his parents were murdered, and he places two freshly cut flowers in the alley. In Batman Returns, Oswald does a similar thing, but with Bruce, the flowers are freshly cut. They're basically alive. Oswald does this in Batman Returns, where he places 2 flowers on the grave of his parents, but those flowers are dead. Okay?
Why are you still out? Are you concerned about that strange, heroic penguin person?
I think he knows who his parents are. There's something else.
So that's it. That's it for my take on Batman Returns. That's what I love about this film, and it's my theory, and I hope I've given you, I hope it's clear what I'm saying, but it's for those reasons that I believe that Oswald murdered his own parents prior to that 33-year mark in the film. So I hope that's clear. So that's it for this topic about Batman Returns. So what I just wanted to just quickly address here, just because of the amount of time that's gone by, which again has been well over a month since I've done an episode or shot an episode. So just to give you guys a quick update on my medical, as you all know, I have a brain tumor that I'm dying from. It's something that can't be cut out or fixed. Basically, the original surgery that I had back in September of 2021, soon after my condition was discovered, the surgery that I had and the radiation and the chemotherapy that I had following that were in an attempt to extend my life. Anyways, about a month ago, or how long ago would it have been, Julie?
Yeah, it was December 28th that everything started taking that downhill slide. Yeah, seizures started. Dave had surgery again on January 8th. So it's only been about 20 days since then, right now, a little less than that. And Dave's making a good recovery. He's working hard on that brain-body connection, and he's lost a lot of mobility, but he's working really hard to gain that back. And yeah, this is tough.
Yeah, so basically I ended up being ambulanced up to the University of Alberta in Edmonton.
The hospital up there.
And they did an emergency surgery, a second surgery. And I mean, just to be blunt here, or to be fully honest, it was made clear to us that I could have died.
Yeah.
If I hadn't had that second surgery, I would have died. So it was super serious. And I was then stuck, and I don't remember any of this. I don't remember having this happen or being taken up to the University of Alberta. I basically woke up after a day after the surgery, or I woke up a day after the surgery without really having any knowledge of what had happened. And initially, I was bedridden. I couldn't even stand up. So there was a fear that I would never be able to stand up again or walk or so forth. And I was stuck in the hospital for, how long was it? Probably over a week. But I'm home now. And I'm home with my family now. and I've been able to gain a lot of my mobility back. I'm having to walk with a assistance of a walker in a wheelchair. But I've actually, with my physiotherapy, been able to independently walk, not far.
Yeah, but a few steps and you're getting stronger every day.
So I'm able to navigate our home fully. So I've been home for about a week now. And in that time, I'm able to now navigate our home. I can walk up the stairs, and so forth. Anyways, I feel like my strength is coming back.
And so now you can start your videos again. Now you're back on track.
There we go. So I just thought that you should know about that without giving too much details, but you should know about that. And so yeah, so going forward, I'll try to do as many videos as I can because I do enjoy doing this. And it's actually kind of funny because going for physiotherapy, the physiotherapy is two components. Not only is it me gaining my strength again and being able to walk and so forth, it's also cognitive, mental. And when the physiotherapist and I were discussing things that I could do, she was suggesting things like reading and writing and so forth. And I told her about the channel, and her response was that that's perfect. So this channel has actually become part of my physiotherapy, which is kind of funny and kind of cool. So anyways, going forward, I will be doing as many videos as I possibly can. So just letting you know that. So basically, that's it. So gonna end this video. So God bless you, take care, and we'll see you later with episode 24. Okay, thank you, take care.
And
Trekkie Dave out.